ratio problems. You know them, you love them. Actually, we've been having pretty good success with ratio problems as far as word problems go in class. Today we're going to add just a little something to that, okay? Uh, and it's going to be the totals. So here you'll see what I mean here in a second. Let's do 3 examples today. The ratio of boys to girls at the assembly was 5 to 4. If there were 180 students at the assembly, how many girls were there? Explain why your answer is reasonable. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this little tic-tac-toe chart, and on it, we're going to include boys, girls, and the total between them. They gave me a ratio of boys to girls that is 5 to 4. Okay, so the total between them is 9. So for every 5 boys, there's 9 students. For every 4 girls, there's 9 students. If it's a 5 to 4 ratio of boys to girls, then the total between them is 9. You just add the two numbers. So we're just adding an extra row here. Okay. Now the next piece of information they give me is if there were 180 students at the assembly, and this is why I added that extra row, because that 180 goes right here. 180 students at the assembly. How many girls were there? So this is the proportion that we need. We're trying to find this empty spot right here. We don't care about this 5. We don't care about how many boys were at the assembly necessarily. They want to know how many girls were at the assembly. Okay, there's our proportion. Let's write it. 4 over 9 equals the number of girls out of 180. Now we can do cross products. 9 times G equals 4 times 180. We can divide both sides by 9. 720 divided by 9 is 80 girls. Okay, so there's 80 girls. Okay, now explain why my answer is reasonable. Well, number one, there's less girls than total students. Number two, girls are a little bit less than half of all the students, right? 4 out of 9. 80 is a little bit less than half of 180. So if we figured out how many boys, well, how many boys are there? 100, because 100 plus 80 is 180. Okay, so 5 to 4 is 100 to 80. So it's reasonable for a couple of reasons, okay? Number one, the number of girls should be less than the total number of students, and it should also be a little bit less than half. And 80 is a little bit less than half of 180. Let's do another because that was so fun. The coin jar was filled with pennies and nickels in the ratio of 7 to 2. If there were 28 nickels in the jar, how many coins were there? It's just slightly different, but we're going to start off the same. Pennies, nickels, and total. Pennies to nickels, 7 to 2. The total between them, 9. It's not always going to be 9, but on these 2 examples it was. 7 to 2, that's a total of 9. Then they say if there were 28 nickels, 28 nickels, how many coins were there? We want to figure out this box right here. Again, we don't care how many pennies were in the jar. We're trying to figure out how many total coins were in the jar. So here's our proportion. 2 over 9 equals 28 over t for total coins. Do cross products. 2t equals 9 times 28. And divide both sides by 2. 252 divided by 2 is 126 coins. Okay. Reasonable. Yeah, it's reasonable. Okay, 28 out of the 126 coins are nickels. Many, many more of them are going to be pennies. Okay. Gosh, I could see us going on and asking, okay, what's the total value of all the coins? Well, to do that, we'd have to figure out how many pennies are in there. And each penny's worth a cent. Each nickel's worth 5 cents. Boy, we could make a good story problem out of that. The ratio of football players to soccer players at the park was 5 to 7. If the total number of players was 48, how many were football players? Okay, so we'll make our little tic-tac-toe table here. Football players and soccer players, 5 to 7. Total between them is 12. They tell me that there are 48 total players, so I'll put that down here. And then we're trying to figure out how many were football players. So this time we're ignoring soccer. Okay, so we're going to ignore soccer. We don't need this row. Okay, so there's our proportion. 5 over 12 equals the number of football players out of the 48. And I use cross products here. 12f equals 5 times 48, and then divide both sides by 12. But this is a waste of my time. I shouldn't have done this. I should have used inspection. It would have been a lot faster. Just look at this and use some common sense. I think we're all guilty of just, looking at the process all the time. I did cross products, but 12 times 4 is 48. 5 times 4 is the number of football players. 5 times 4 is 20. Okay, I didn't need to do cross products. I should have done inspection. Whatever. I feel silly looking back on it, but I got the right answer. I guess that's the important thing. There are 20 football players. Okay, so solving proportions, ratio problems that involve totals. We need that extra row there, okay? All right, good luck. I think you'll be equally successful with this if you just slow down and really read what information is being given to you and what information is being asked of you. Good luck.